Welcome to the Hockenheimring. Our 2-week stay in Germany ends here today with a big race at one of the iRacing's newest content, but definitely not a new track in the world. The Hockenheimring has hosted plenty of Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3 action, and GT action. And now these Indy Pro 2000 machines are going to go around for 17 laps around these 16 corners, 2.8 miles. It should bring us plenty of drama and plenty of action. My name is Jonathan Burke. Joining alongside me this week is Dylan Coyle. Down in the production booth is Tyler Maxson. He also provides some of our in-car cameras and other cams provided by Istvan Balos and Track Cams 22. And after last week's dramatic race at the Nürburgring, we head to a more traditional road course circuit here at Hockenheim. It's going to be a really interesting race. Dylan, what are you expecting? First race of the season, you're with us, and it's going to be, I think, an entertaining one.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to be on with you, Jonathan. You know, these Indy Pro 2000 cars, they're very sensitive with brake pressure, and there's going to be multiple hard braking zones here at the Hockenheimring. So we might see some lockups, especially lap 1. And don't forget, calamity can always be right around the corner for these drivers.
And making sure you keep that car straight is something that proved key last week. We saw Kimi Antonelli, a Mercedes Junior driver who was leading the way by 5 seconds at the Nürburgring the other week. Unfortunately, spinning out in the last corner, getting front wing damage, and having to retire from the race. Severi Seppa was the one who wanted our broadcasted race last week. And again, I mentioned this is our second of our 2-week stay in Germany, a little spring break, and then we head back stateside soon. So this is the last road course before we head back to the ovals at Phoenix, and this is going to be a good time, I think, for many drivers to make a stand. And there's our schedule. We were at the Glen. We saw a close race at Monza. Iowa had a lot of cautions. The Nordschleife had all the drama. And now we head to the Hockenheimring. Before we head back for a long stay in the States, races 6 through 10, all in the southern U.S. But the Hockenheimring, really there's nothing on the schedule very similar to it until maybe we get down to Spa. So this is a good chance, I think, for a lot of guys to capitalize on some points.
Yeah, completely agree there. I mean, this is one of the more, I guess you could say, traditional road courses that any driver can go to in an international racing series. So really excited to see what happens here in this race as we take a look at the schedule. Phoenix will be an interesting one. I don't know how much aero will come into play, but Jonathan, I do know that it's going to be a lot less aero than if the IR18s were there.
Yeah, definitely a lot less there. There's only a few points you can get some nice drafting. And speaking of drafting here, it's going to be a little bit interesting to see. There's going to be 3 main areas you can get a huge draft him at the Hockenheimring. And again, we don't see any course like it until maybe we head back to Spa. That's all the way at the end of the season. As qualifying well and truly underway, just 3 minutes and 56 seconds to go. There you can see the top 20, Austria-Kavia at the bottom. Brandmiki at the top, Isaacson in second, and Michelin Green currently in third, waiting for everyone to set their time. And here's our man of the hour, Christoph Herbenio. Unfortunately had to miss last week due to prepping for the Ivor Endurance Series, and I can be glad and fortunate to say this. I was on the broadcast, and this team did win the Ivor Endurance Series, and now he's back weekly for this series. Going to be interesting to see how he fits in here. Again, more of a traditional Grand Prix circuit. We saw him be kind of a threat at Watkins Glen. He had to make a bit of a rebound. In Monza, he was a bit further down he was all the way up the front and barely won that race.
Look at the gap right now between first and second. I mean, that's around 0.8 of a second right here, Jonathan.
Yeah, Vakima Mayamaki has 133.3. And Michelin Green only now has just gotten into the 33s. And it may just be the second lap that's really strong. But look at this tight cornering right here. Down all the way to first gear. It's going to be the prime opportunity to pass that turn 6 hairpin. Heading now down to the run down to turn 7 into the Mercedes bend. And Herbenio, a little bit farther down the order than I think I'd expected to see him. But hopefully this one's a good lap.
You know,
he's already faster sector 1.
I have a fun story about Mitchell Ian Green, otherwise Mitch Green. He is from right around us, Jonathan, right around the Philadelphia area. He's come to a few events that we've held for hockey, so he's a hockey player. I know him well, met him in person multiple times. Had no idea he was going to be in this race.
Well, Dylan, he's a weekly regular. He's part of Rust Racing, which has had a lot of dominant drivers come here in this series. Its current defending champion, Greg Sainz, was a Rust Racing driver, and Rust Racing tends to be towards the front of the field. And this season, it's kind of been the story of Rust Racing versus TNT with Delta Sport U4K that Herbigno is driving mixed in. And Herbigno gets up to 5th ahead of Endema, and crucially, when we're talking about the championship later on in the series, that it's going to be a huge difference. There we see the 20-mud machine of David Dedelot, who is qualifying. Normally, actually, this 21 machine does not qualify. Likes to work his way up through the field, but it looks like he's taking his 21 machine out and maybe trying to get a few laps.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to get some extra practice laps out in qualifying. I know even when there's still a lot of time left, I'll still use up all of qualifying just to try and hit my marks, just to try and get more time to practice. Because, let's be honest, while practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. You've got to put in the hard work. You got to put in the laps to get that time. So he'll probably get this lap in and keep going a little bit.
Yeah, maybe just trying to get a feel. Again, I mentioned like he's normally a guy that starts towards the rear of the field and works his way up. Same with a few others, Thomas Zeiger, Lubov, Austriakaya, Tony Stack, and he's not even going to complete the lap. He's going to slam on the brakes in dramatic fashion and slide to a halt. So we will start at the rear, and 18 drivers, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, have qualified. Looks like Ariel Lenton, Shane Burke, and David Dedelot have yet to set times. I've yet to see the 10 or the 13 out on track. And no one else says it. And here's, you mentioned the gap. Varakami and Green are the only two drivers in the 33 seconds. They may be the two to really watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I've texted Mitch to not disappoint on this broadcast tonight, but yeah, you know what? We've got some really fast times, and I do wonder if some drivers, because it's such a new track to the service, might not have as much experience as we're potentially used to, Jonathan.
No, and we're already away with the starting grid. Starting P1, Mika Varakami in from Finland, and right alongside him, the Pennsylvania native Mitchell Ian Green. Connor Wagner from Florida is in P3. Adam Isaacson is in P4. Christoph Herbigno, he's got some work to do, does the Belgian, in P5. And Amadema is in P6. What can our championship contenders do from row 3? Looking down the order, Fabio Berchtold lines up P7 and Frank Newen in P8, the two regulars. Right ahead, Severy Sepper, last week's winner, in P9. Juka Tolian is in P10. Aurelian Glemmerwitz is in P11, and Christopher Wright is in P12. Thomas Guntia from France is in P13th. David Mena from Illinois in P14th. Javier Horta, the number 17, is in 15th. Thomas Zeiger for TNT is in 16th. Lumbov Ovsiorkaya in 17th. The Russian driver has a lot of work to do to get to the top 10 again. Tony Stack is in P18. And then here are the provisionals with no time. Ariel Luthien from Finland, Shane Burke from the UK and Ireland, and David Dedelot from the Netherlands and Belgian area. No qualifying time set, but we're going to see them out on track very shortly. And yes, it is quite a name. It took me a while to get that one right, and I've been trying to get that one right, but she is a really good aggressive driver. Going to be interesting to see some of these guys working from the back. Mena is quite high up in the points. Ostiokaya has finished in the top 10 most of these broadcasted races, and Seppa, Newen, and Berchtold probably not where they want to be. They're probably a little bit further behind Green and Vakami than they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these names are kind of carryovers from when this series used to be the Pro Mazda series. Fabio Berchtold, one of them. And, you know, when he's in a race, he's always looking for some high positions. As the pace car rolls off, Jonathan, we're about to get underway here for 17 laps at the Hockenheimring.
17 laps, and you can hear the engines fire. Not a full pace lap around here, so we can't give you all the sights and sounds. But you can see all the lovely paints, and you can see kind of the team affiliates right now. Delta Sport U4K doing well in this qualifying session. They have P3 and as well as P number 5 right now at the front. It's going to be Black Star Racing versus Rust Racing Mikia Vayakami from Finland versus Mitchell Ian Green at the start. The pace car comes down pit lane and out of the suited curve. 21 drivers will take to 17 laps, and it's sure to be quite intense. They back him up, and green from the Hockenheimring. Vayakami gets a great jump on Green. He's able to clear him into the first corner, and the Delta Sport U4K drivers looking to try and make up the places. Looks like Isaacson wins out that battle, and he's going to go to the inside of Mitchie and Green. Vayakami is smiling in his mirror, seeing those two side by side. Here comes Isaacson to the inside, unable to clear the 16. And right now, Wagner and Herbigno, the two Delta Sport U4K drivers, are ready to pounce. Clean first few corners, Dylan, and that's, to be honest, to be expected. As I say that, there's a little bit of smoke in the background. Looks like just a little bit of an internet issue. And now we're heading to the most important point, the hairpin. Will anyone make a move down the inside? And yes, it's going to be Wagner. Locking up goes Mitchie and Green. Contact with Herbigno and the 3 machine. Isaacson is having to get out of the throttle and drop back up. That checks up new, and he ran into Mitch Green off to the side. There's suspension damage on the 3, and chaos to the rest of the field.
Yeah, it looked like Green is going to be fine. It looked like tire to tire. He was just an unfortunate participant there, but it also seemed to be almost 5 wide when he was trying to get back on track before he realized that the suspension damage was terminal, locking up into that corner. That's exactly what we saw from some of the drivers there.
The number 3 of Isaacson is a good driver. He's gotten fantastic results here, but it seems like it's a broadcasted race curse for him. Because I remember in Sebring, he was charging through the field and then sliding and getting in the outside wall out of Sunset Bend. Hopefully he can get repaired and maybe recover some of that racing time. Right now, single file through the rest of the field, and there's this huge queue behind the TNT racing machine of the 15. That's Fabio Berchtold in the 8, currently under fire from Javier Horta.
That corner right there, turn 1, Nord curve is so difficult to go too wide, and oh, it right up ahead, Herbigno almost went right into the gearbox of Green.
Yeah, aggressive on the brakes. There's a lot of slow corners. We mentioned that at qualifying, a lot of opportunity to lock it up and get things wrong. They're going to be too wide. The 17 and the 15 of Berchtold, and the 12 of Tolian is trying to find a way around, but this wide track, and he's already running out of room as he against these 2 other cars. They're side by side right behind. This is for 8th place on the edge of the top 10. It looks like Horta's going to have the inside line. Nguyen is trying to find a way. He's following Gutierrez, and they're 2 by 2 by 2 down this straighter, almost looking like a super speedway race in a NASCAR rather than road course racing in the German countryside.
Yeah, Gautier is trying to go around the outside, is going to get some inside positioning on the man right there, Fabio Berchtold, and they almost come together, and Berchtold has a driver come right over top of him.
That's the 12 machine that has come over the top of Huka Tolian. He is towed back to pit lane, and it sent the rest of the field scrambling, and several drivers losing out big. Mena and Seppa had to check up a ton. And it looks like David Mena may have damage. There's a few drivers still dropping through the field. Dendelot as well, fighting hard for him. Let's get a RaceSpotTV replay up, and we'll see what happens here. He gets, it's a wing on the 11 of Gutierrez. He checks up in the 12 machine. I don't know if he really had anywhere to go, Dylan, but just into the rear.
No, yeah, not at all. There's, honestly, so far, it's been some sloppy driving. I'm not exactly sure what is going on right now, Jonathan, because, yeah, there's going to be lockups. Yeah, this is a new track to the surface, but at the same time, you can't go all aggressive right away, and you gotta leave it a space.
I leave a little bit of the space, but I'm sure, look, a track that's so pass heavy, you know, you really want to take advantage of all the opportunities. So here's the onboard with the 12 machine. It's going to touch the front wing, and maybe that 12 should have let up when he saw that contact. Maybe he should have towed to the inside, or maybe he just didn't realize how slow Berchtold was going to be after the contact. Anyway, we rejoin the action. The 11 now going to the inside. Gutierrez on Horta. The edge of the top 10 getting very, very spicy. And speaking of also spicy, Connor Wagner is closing in on the Black Star Racing machine of Vayakami. So we got battles all over this great track. I should also mention the 11 and the 21 are teammates who are Undercut Racing. And Dedilat all the way up to 13th. Good drive for him. Maybe 2 top 10 finishes for the team.
Yeah, there's a huge crowd of drivers right around that top 10, the cusp of it, currently rounding out lap number 3 for them. And, you know, they still have to be careful because, as we've seen, you get a little bit too close, get a little bit too on the inside, and those brakes are not going to be helping much. Like I said, Jonathan, the brakes are so sensitive on the Indy Pro 2000 cars. So you touch it just a little bit too hard, and you're just going for it.
Speaking of going for it, here comes Frank Nguyen down to the inside of the 17 of Javier Horta. Horta seems to be really the picked-on kid among all these bully series. He's got Seppa now right behind and lengthening in the 10 machine, and all three of these guys are going to be anxious to get to the edge of the top 10. Unfortunately for them, the edge of the top 10 may be the best they can do. They're about 3 seconds away from Glimmerwitz in the 7th position. They're side by side again, going through the hairpin. And look at how slow you have to be coming out the exit if you take that inside line. That gives Horta the position right back.
They all get right back into line in that sweeping right-hand curve before coming down into one of the slower sections of the track. You have to go into the arena right after that, and right back into line they go, Jonathan. They're playing very kindly together.
This midfield, as we often call it when we cover the Monday night racing for Real Sim Racing, tends to be a hornet's nest, and it is a very big hornet's nest with some very talented drivers in it. Seppa, last week's winner, has Nguyen behind for company. He's now holding down that 10th position ahead of Gutierrez and Horta, and again, looks like 8th may be the best these guys can do unless something happens up front with Herbigno, Green, Medema, and Wright. That there might be calamity. Those guys are also closing in on each other. All of a sudden, those gaps that were about a second large are now slowly coming together. Herbigno's going to be under fire from Medema really, really quickly if he's not careful.
Yeah, these 4 drivers are so separated by just a second between them. So some good racing here throughout the field. And the only person who really has nothing to worry about, or I should say, no one to contend with right now, is Mitch Green. He's around 2.5 seconds both in front and behind him. Cars are.
Well, that doesn't mean he has anything to worry about, because he can worry about this battle for the lead of the race. Connor Wagner for Delta Sport U4K has been hunting down that 4 machine of Black Star Racing. The Finnish-based team made an appearance as well last week, and unfortunately a late race crash prevented them from standing on top of the podium. Viacami with great pace and a great qualifying time as well. Wagner kind of surprising me of how well he gapped Mitchie and Green after that first lap. And he's going to have plenty of drafting opportunities as well, does the 5 machine. It's going to be a matter of when does he want to make that move. And here's that battle I was talking about. This is 4th on back. Here are the 2 championship rivals, Medema and Herbigno, Delta Sport and TNT. They have the number 8 machine of Christopher Wright, and then right behind them, that's Glenowitz in the 6 for company. Very high-rated drivers, a lot of experience as well, at least for Herbigno this season, and Medema. The TNT Racing team has been a staple of the Pro Mazda community for quite some time.
Yeah, and it's nice to see consistency in sim racing. You know, it's always nice to see teams that are sticking throughout the years, and especially when it comes to the series, because again, this is a continuation, sort of the Pro Mazda series, different cars, but it's the same step of the ladder in the road to IndyCar.
Same step of the ladder and same step maybe to the edge of the top 10, because Gutierrez under fire from Seppa, and is the guy going to give an opportunity for lengthening? No, and there was a lockup. We saw smoke up ahead. I think Herbigno has made a mistake going into the hairpin and has lost out to Medema as well. Tons of position stages. I think the Russian driver, Vostyukaya, has also had a lockup. We're only on lap 6, and the amount of lockups, the amount of action we've gotten, is comparable to maybe a full 17-lap race in another course. This is great racing action.
This is absolutely fantastic, and if we're watching this battle, it looked like Frank Nguyen got a big run here on, Lettinen as they come down to the arena section, and he's going to get the job done, and a dive bomb! And he loses it.
A dive bomb from Nguyen, and he goes around. That's very Frank Nguyen-like. I don't ever think he's usually the one to take a dive bomb like that. I don't think he's collided with anyone else, but he has towed back to pit lane. has the number 9 machine, and that's really broken up this fight.
Oh, man.
As Porter and Seppa can now fight for 8th place. Gutierrez now ranked on the top 10, and Lanthinen now about a half a second behind.
I can tell you exactly what happened. Lehtinen just barely nicked the left rear tire, it looks like, of Ewan. We'll catch it right here. The dive bomb doesn't work out. No contact. Then right there's contact. And the left rear is gone.
Yeah, that left rear, I think we've learned week after week, is a very sensitive area. Does not like to be touched. But here comes Seppa down to the inside. You can see in the timing screen, I think Herbigno and Medema are getting into it for 4th place as well. Seppa, the Finnish driver, clears and is able to get into 8th, and that may just be the best he can do. Here's that fight. Herbigno on the inside of Medema, able to clear. Wright and Glemowitz are now right on the gearbox of the TNT Racing driver. There's the Rust Racing Michigan Green in the distance. But now we'll get 10 more laps, and I think they're fighting like it's the last lap. There's not going to be any room to give. And again, these two are kind of the main championship contenders at the moment. The other rival, Michigan Green, is a little too far ahead for them to catch.
Yep, and Gimlowitz is basically at the end of this train, at the outside the podium, but I don't think he minds it too much. Just needs to stay in the draft, because that long, stretching, left-handed corner, it's the Parabolica, basically, it's called, and the German spelling that is so important to get right. And as they come into turn 2, come back into file, try to get onto the inside curbing. That's a hard corner to get right, Jonathan.
Well, get right. I don't even know which line was right. There was 4 different lines being taken by our 4 different drivers on screen. Looks like Herbigno's trying to get as much out of the track as possible. Medema a little bit tighter. Is he going to make a dive? The TNT Racing driver. TNT goes boom to the inside. And Medema not able to clear, a little sideways out of the corner. They're going to be side by side again. What does Wright have to do now? Looking at this battle, Medema to the inside. They're heading now into turn 7. And he will get the position. And here comes Wright. Is he going to make a move? Herbigno laid on the brakes in a Mercedes corner and still keeps the position. And Medema barely cutting off Wright. Glemowitz had to check up there as well. And this is intense racing and intense fighting, although the more and more these guys keep fighting, the more and more Michigan Green scoots away.
Yep, and I am a happy camper if I am Mitch Green. He just needs to hold his position, potentially has a podium in his pocket, just cannot make any mistakes. 4 seconds, it can go away very quickly if you do make any bit of a mistake. However, I think the mistakes are more likely to come from this pack of 4 with this aggressive driving.
I don't know. Have you seen some of these guys in the recent weeks? At least from Medema and Herbigno, I don't think mistakes are going to happen very often, at least when it comes to collisions. And Christopher Wright has been a consistent driver in the community, has been in this midfield, and now has a chance to go at it for a big top 5 here. Glemowitz has been in and out this season as well as the Frenchman, and he's been really quick this week. And this is, again, a big fight for the top 5. Big points, big bragging rights, and with the strength of field as well, it could be key in any iRacing championships. We're on board with Medema. This time the Delta Sport driver to the inside of Herbigno, blocking the TNT driver, but that may be the preferred line around here.
Watch Wright.
Medema hanging tough, unable to complete the pass. Now Wright goes to the inside. He's going to have a big lunge down in the turn 7, or is he going to think better of it? No. Backs out, being rather patient. I think that's a good news for the number 8 driver, the Florida driver, getting close to Medema. I want to know how close some of these guys are to colliding with one another. Glemowitz had to get out of the throttle there for a second because he almost went into the gearbox of the number 8 machine.
Yeah, I was holding my breath there as well. Gimlowitz was right on the gearbox, and when we say Florida driver, he's no Florida man in this driving battle. Oh, but Thomas Gauthier, it looks like he has a little bit of a spin there. Comes out unscathed.
Well, bad news for at least Undercut Racing. They were about to have 3 drivers, I think, in the top 10. As I've been mentioning, Glemowitz, that is an Undercut Racing machine behind him. So he was on his way to the top 10. Dedilat has gotten all the way to 11th. Let's see what has happened. Was there contact? There has been some, and don't tell me the teammates got together. I don't think they got together.
I think that's just getting the revs too high on the coming out of the curve, and he just took himself for a spin.
I was going to say, I hope the teammates don't get together, otherwise it'll be a very awkward meeting in the Discord later on.
Yeah.
But again, good results so far for the team. They're riding 7th and 11th, and before that spin, Gutierrez was in the top 10. Here comes Madema on the outside again, aggressive on Herbigno.
Right.
Herbigno is just never give up, never surrender, and now here comes Christopher Wright from Florida to the inside of TNT's Racing, and Madema gets to the inside of 7. Can he hold it into the Mercedes corner? Turn 8. Big on the brakes goes Madema. They're going to be side by side again. Glimmerwitz just has nowhere to go in this scenario. And now Madema able to hold position, and Herbigno breathes a sigh of relief for the first time in maybe the past 4 or 5 laps. He comes out with a little bit of a cushion.
You see, it's interesting right there with Wright trying to get the position out of 7, that right-hand fast curve before you get into 8, Mercedes-Benz. It's just not big enough of an angle to force drivers on the outside to have to take a much longer distance around. So he would have to be basically a half a car length in front, I guess you could say, to be able to keep a move sticking if he's down the inside around 7 into Mercedes 8.
Yeah, it's such a tricky section, especially when you are side-by-side. We've seen how much time you can lose when you're side-by-side.
Very
Look at the gap between Herbigno and Mitch Ian Green, and I think this time Herbigno is not going to end up side-by-side coming out of the hairpin of turn 6, but the draft is definitely going to keep Madema close, and maybe too close for comfort for the number 1 machine. And there you can see in the background, there is Seppa in 8th, Horta in 9th, Linton in 10th. They're a little farther off of this battle, but again, if something goes wrong here, and all 4 of these guys have issues, top 5 is going to be up for grabs for all of those guys in the background.
Well, not even just that. If something goes wrong between Vayamaki and Wagner for P1, I mean, then the podium positions will be up for grabs by the drivers fighting for 4th place.
Just listen to those engines as they go by on the run down to turn 11. Such a beautiful sound. Madema getting a little wide. Is that going to leave room for Wright? No, not on this occasion. Heading through the final sections, 13, 14, 15, and then the suited curve of 16. Viewpoint from Madema. You can see right behind there is Wright, and there is the undercut machine of Glemowitz. Again, everyone kind of separating a little bit here in this group. Tensions have calmed.
For now.
I'm assuming in a few laps' time they're going to resume.
I'm surprised that they haven't already resumed. There's going to be some dive bombs made. I think Gimlowitz is getting a little bit frustrated being the back of this pack. Now that there is some separation, I wouldn't be surprised if Gimlowitz gets a little bit more aggressive. He didn't want to get into the battle where something could have gone wrong for him. And by the way, look at this battle now for P1. It's just 2 car lengths between them.
There's a slow sector for Vayakami in Sector 1, and now Connor Wagner is on the tail of the Black Star Racing machine. They almost collide going in to turn 8. They head through 9 and 10 now. The 5 machine is going to get a huge draft into the run down to the Mobile 1 corner of turn 11. Is he going to take it? No, I think Wagner, very wise, very, very patient. He knows it's a long race. He knows there's plenty of time still left, 5 more laps to go, but he knows time is still running out. He still has to get this move done at some point and then hold off the Finnish racing driver.
You know, we're talking about the technical sections of this track. I think this entire track is a lesson in being technical. I think this, just trying to drive and tiptoe your way around here is one of the most challenging things to do in all of racing, just because of how many corners are following one tough corner. Right here, we're going to see turn 2. You come out of there, go into 3 right here, then come back out into 4. Yes, that is the way to do it, but you always feel like you lost out somehow.
Yeah, Vayakami pulling himself away now from Connor Wagner. Finnish driver, member since 2018, has had real-life experience in Formula 3, Formula Renault, has been in the Endurance Series in GT3 over in Europe as well, and is up against a very aggressive Delta Sport U4K driver. And Delta Sport U4K, a very, very stacked team in terms of driving talent. We head back here, and it looks like Medema has once again closed up to the rear of Christophe Herbigno. And the Belgian is going to be again on the defense. And now, yeah, it's getting tighter once again. I think everyone kind of gapped out a bit, collected themselves, and now we're just mounting another charge for a big fight here.
Well, I think it's going to be an even bigger fight because we're already finished with this race. It's the end of lap 13 for the drivers in this fight. Vayamaki coming around the Sud curve, the last corner. And as he comes around Suda curve, that means he is on lap 14. 4 laps to go in this race.
And what can Wagner do? He's being so very patient behind him. What can these guys do to get in the edge of the top 5? Medema and Herbigno have kind of been hogging 4th and 5th all race long, right? And Glemowitz can just taste a top 5 finish right now. And again, any mistake these 4 make could benefit Seppa and Horta behind. Any mistake Wagner and Vayakami make benefits these 4 as well as Mitchie and Green. Again, we mentioned him several times. I think it's the only Rust Racing driver in this race that I can tell, which is quite unusual. Normally Rust Racing running at least 3 or 4 drivers in here. We've seen a high of 5 at one point. They head now into the hairpin. Medema not thinking about a dive this time. I think, again, they're saving their strength for the final lap. This is the mustering the courage to really start the fight.
I don't think the strength is going to be saved for the final lap, Jonathan. I think that they're just revving up to get it going right now.
Herbigno has been slightly faster, a 10th or 2 than Medema. The draft is really keeping that 7 machine in the fight, but what can Christopher Wright do? From behind, they roar down that straightaway. I love that sound so much. Down through the Mobile 1 curve, and looks like Herbigno's able to get a half a second gap here. I'm wondering if maybe the tires are going away a little bit on the TNT machine, or maybe Herbigno getting a bit more comfortable now that he's not constantly under pressure. Vayakami and Wagner, speaking of pressure, I think Wagner is putting it on Vayakami for the lead. Only 2/10 separating those 2 drivers.
Oh, there's going to be a dive bomb, I think, coming up into the hairpin up here. Do not be surprised if he is within 3 car lengths that he tries to make a run. We have a view from the rear. Now we get the T-cam. Jonathan, will there be a move down here? I think he's a little too far away.
Yeah, a little too far away. It's also like, where is Vayakami braking? He's very, very, very late coming into the hairpin. I think he's going to have to wait for a mistake or like a little bit of sideways action like that. And all of a sudden, Medema's under fire. Here comes Christopher Wright trying to get into the top 5. The 8's to the outside of the hairpin. No, thinks better of it. But now here comes the undercut. 3 wide out of the hairpin. Glemowitz, you madman, trying to go 3 wide. He backs out of it for a second. But now he's going to try and go into the inside of Medema. Wright is still side by side with him. Medema now to the inside of Mercedes. Wright able to clear and able to slam the door on Medema in dramatic fashion. I think that 8 machine remembers what happened earlier. Race car drivers are much like elephants. They do not forget.
Christophe Herbigno is very happy that these drivers are battling because he's able to get a little bit in front of the competitors right here. In lap 16, starting right now, Wagner, it looks like he is continually closing the gap. 3/10 though at the line.
Yeah, both these drivers have real-life experience, 2012 and 2013. Both of them were having experience. At least the 4 machine of Vayakami was in the FIA GT3 in Europe. A Nationals winner and a Champions winner for SK USA Karting for Connor Wagner from Florida.
He's got to run.
I don't know, that 4 machine's fast in the straight line for sure.
Man, it just seems like it stalls out. Once it hits top speed, it just stalls out. But this is an interesting entry and exit into the curve. You might have a lot more momentum, but it's just not a long enough straight section or a long right-hand sweeping curve right there, or a short one, I should say, to get any momentum here. I mean, this is going to come down to the last lap for the lead.
Let's not forget some of the fighting behind on the edge of the top 5.
Oh, right in Medema!
Right going at it. as well as Glimowitz in that fight. It was a fight as well between Linton and Horta. There goes Wright. I think Madema thought about it again on Wright, and now here comes Glimowitz, the undercut racing machine, trying to break his way into the top 5. He's been at this end of the train for so very long. And now, again, if something happens, even if it's side by side, the Finnish driver, Seppa, might be brought into the equation.
Yeah, it's very possible. He is right there. Oh my goodness, did not even notice until right now, but Severi Seppa, he is at the point where he could make a move and capitalize on a mistake by these drivers. Final lap of the race, lap 17. Wagner still trying to chase Vayamaki as they head into turn 2, Jonathan.
Black Star Racing versus Delta Sport U4K at the front of the field. And we're looking now, this is the edge of the top 5. You can see Herbigno is 4th, Wright is 5th, TNTs and Madema currently in 6th. Vayakami and Wagner 2/10 separating them still. Mitchie and Green.
He's taking a dive! He's taking a dive!
Wagner to the inside, heavy on the braking, but here comes the 4 machine back underneath. Wagner had it. We had it for a moment, but too much speed on the entry of the corner. It was an aggressive move. Here comes Madema and here comes Glemowitz. They're side by side still for the lead. Vayakami to the inside. Here comes Wagner to the outside. He's getting his speed. The over and under. Wagner looking. He is desperate now to get a move. They're heading down the straightaway. Vayakami, the Finnish driver, to the inside. Gets a better run out of the corner. Connor Wagner, he only has a handful of corners to go. We're heading into turn 12. To the outside goes the karting champion from Florida. They're side by side through turn 12. They're going to head through 13 and 14. Does Wagner have enough momentum? No. Vayakami shutting the door. Vayakami defending the inside. We're coming out to Sud Curve now. And Miki Vayakami, Black Star Racing Finnish driver, take a bow for that defensive effort. Connor Wagner was relentless on the final lap. Mitchie and Green will stand on the podium as well, and here comes the rest of the top 5. Herbigno taking 4th, Christopher Wright taking 5th, Madema just on the outside of it, Glemowitz in 7th, Seppa under a second to those top 5 runners. He was flying those last few laps, and now we can take a breath. Oh, what a dive from Wagner.
That was thrilling. Wow, that was absolutely thrilling. Wagner was actually, he benefited from that dive bomb. He was able to get closer right on the gearbox, heading down to 7 and 8, but at the end of the day, it's just Vayamaki just had too much speed for Wagner to contend with.
And from pole to the winner, Mika Vayamaki will stand on top for Finland. Connor Wagner will stand in 2nd. Mitch Ian Green taking home a very lonely 3rd place, unfortunately. 3 seconds off the lead, but 10 seconds ahead of Herbigno. That 16 car had pace. Herbigno in 4th, Christopher Wright in 5th, Madema outside of top 5 and 6th, Glemowitz in 7th, Seppa in 8th, Lentonen and Horta, they were going at it for quite some time as well in 9th and 10th. David Dendelot from the rear of the field to 11th, Lubov Austriakaya. We didn't really get to see her much, but she got all the way up to 12th. Good race for her. David Meneth in 13th, Thomas Gutier after that spin in 14th, Tony Stack in 15th, Thomas Zeiger for TNT in 16th, Shane P. Burke in 17th, Frank Nguyen in 18th after suspension damage, Fabio Burchell after damage as well in 19th, Ruko Tolien getting into the back of the 15 machine in 20th. And then just Adam Isaacson, the suspension damage on lap 1, he was aiming to be a threat as well for the top of this race, but it was not meant to be. Well, Dylan, how did you like your return to the Indy Pro 2000 series after a long hiatus for you?
Yes, a long hiatus, so long that they decided to change the series in the car and just completely take it away. But my goodness, that was a fantastic race. Awesome battling for the top 5, and you can't even forget how close the battle for P1 was. Extremely fair, extremely clean driving by all the drivers who, well, survived past lap 3. But I'll tell you what, Jonathan, excited to have been on with you, and what a race.
It was an intense one, and Wagner being extremely, extremely patient. And let's just do a quick wrap here for some of the teams. Wagner and Herbigno top 5 finish for the Delta Sport U4K boys. Great job for them via Kami. The only Black Star machine here getting the win. Machine Green putting on a good points day for him in 3rd, and it was just really good, intense racing from flag to flag. A reminder, if you want to keep up with anything you see here on RaceSpotTV, remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and follow us as well on Twitch. There's plenty of sim racing action to go around. The 24-hour series is this weekend. It's a 12-hour race at Spa. Nothing sounds better than an endurance race at Spa de Francorchamps in the Belgian hills. So be sure to watch out for that this weekend, and be sure to keep tuned with us next week when we return to Phoenix. We return to oval racing, and that should be an intense one. Hopefully a little bit of less yellow fever than we saw last time out in Iowa, but that wraps us up here for our 2-week stay in Germany. After the Hockenheimring and after the Nürburgring, we head back stateside and we say so long for the Indy Pro 2000 series. My name is Jonathan Burke. Alongside me this week was Dylan Coyle, Tyler Maxton down at the production booth, providing us with some of our onboard cams and Instagram Valor and Track Cams 22. And we'll see you guys next week in Phoenix.